So I typically just wing these, whatever arises, whatever bubbles up.
Somehow, as far as non-duality is concerned, I just find talking, talking is not that. Well, it is that too. You
It's unnatural.
Yeah.
So it started all these problems. And then when a perceived problem pops up, it invents philosophy as if there's a problem, so that it has something to talk about.
Walking is nice. We've been walking, of course, today again. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I got to get outside more.
Yeah, I'm a bit frustrated of not being able to go for ski tours because it's a good season after many years with no snow. It's a better year and I can't ski because of my broken leg. So this is frustrating.
Yeah. I saw a video of an elephant the other day, and it was on a muddy hill. I got to the top and it slid down the hill like it was skiing. You could tell it was having fun.
Yeah, animals do that. They even slide with sledges. They actually.
Oh,
Have you seen?
yeah, I saw the dog with the sled. Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the things that all of nature has in common with itself across all species is this playfulness. Yeah. There's a hidden nature that's at play with itself. I saw a few years ago, I was just kind of sitting in my yard spacing out, and there was a twig and another twig like this, and a hummingbird flew in and started using it as a seesaw back and forth. Yeah. People, when they think of a wild animal, I think immediately think of aggression and violence, but even so-called violent animals, tigers and bears, sometimes they play with other animals that would be their prey. If they're not hungry or particularly pissed off or threatened, they might engage with play and consider it a friend, at least for a moment.
Yeah, they are. They just have to eat something. They are like this. I like very much all of animals.
Yeah.
Wolves also very much.
You said wolves?
Yes.
I had a dog, if you could call it that. I'm pretty sure it was a quarter wolf. It was pure white. I think it was probably a quarter white wolf, half white German Shepherd, and like a quarter husky or something. And one day there was a bad like thunderstorm, and after that storm I went outside, and this is in Kansas, when I lived in Kansas. We were right by the woods, and I was sitting in my chair out on the porch, and I could hear movement behind me, and I thought, oh, is there a squirrel behind me or something weird? Why would it be behind the chair? I was sitting on the porch. I turn around and there's this dog just totally like scared. And even though it was a quarter wolf, it was kind of like Zeta in the hierarchy. You could tell psychologically it had been abused or something by its previous owner. I'm assuming it had one because it was missing an ear, like it had been surgically removed. and it was probably beaten because we had to desensitize it. I ended up adopting this animal, but it was more of a companion than a pet because of its wild side. And I think wild humans automatically attract slightly wilder pets too. There's some kinship in that wildness, and the awakened mind is kind of that wildness, that lack of domestication, that lack of cultural conditioning. So I've always identified as a wild human, and now even more so.
Yeah, I like being in nature and really wild nature because
Yeah.
mountaineering, yeah, really, yeah, it is really outside the civilization. So, well, there are a good size of civilization, but there is also lots of crap. But I never met a wolf in nature. Although there was one sighted in our village 2 years
Oh,
ago. Yeah, they are coming more and more. And yeah, most people don't like them because most Swiss people are, of course, in the rural areas are farmers. And there is
yeah.
anti-wolf.
They're used to defending against them for their livelihood. So their very livelihood is threatened directly. Yeah.
And of course, well, they do kill sheep and so on and so forth, but sheep exist only because of the subventions. So anyway,
Yeah.
so much more of them who die because of plenty of. It's like
Right.
not 1% who are killed by the wolves, and
Yeah.
there's this enemy.
Yeah. There's so many domesticated animals because of selective breeding and human culture, and the desperate need to control and guide nature, thinking that humans are doing something better, and then we throw ecosystems out of whack all over the world. Um, and I think that somehow human beings accidentally domesticated themselves, or
Yeah,
intentionally, who knows. So we have this cultural conditioning component, but there's also the genetic component. Just like a sheep or a cow or a pig is not a wild boar, there's a genetic difference. And I've heard stories, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard stories, if you take a domesticated animal and you let it go live in the woods, in the really wild woods, the genetics even will start to, epigenetically, it'll start to rewild itself even on a genetic level a little
yeah.
bit at least.
Mm-hmm.
So I think humans have that too, and I think that's somehow directly related to awakening, is kind of the rewilding, the undomestication of the human. And I think some people are wired to be have a little bit more of that wild tendency, and they might be a little bit more primed for that type of shift in perspective, perhaps.
I don't know really. Maybe.
Me either. All I realize is that none of us know. Isn't it liberating not to need to know things?
Yeah, yeah, it is. And it's really, schooling is just the opposite of that. You have to know, and you are punished if you don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
The conditioning, a big part of it.
Yeah, it's funny, but it's I forget what it's called, but that whole paradox of the more intelligent and wise a human being is, the less likely they are to confidently claim they know something.
Mm.
And the people that tend to confidently cling and proclaim that they know tend to, actually know less. so,
Yeah,
so people who are looking to find out, they see someone and goes, oh, I don't know. I'm like, who else? Oh, this guy's real confident. Let's talk to him. So
yeah,
it's
it's also
funny.
like success of some politicians who appear
Yeah, exactly.
like this, like if they knew, although they don't actually.
Yeah, just raw confidence. And that's a masculine trait usually. I think evolutionarily, it's like the masculine energy wants to make a decision and just march out into the woods alone with zero data. And then the feminine mind wants to wait until the end of time, until all the data has arrived, to really make up its mind. So there's a healthy
I don't know, because now I'm going solo in the mountains and trying to
Yeah.
new.
So I wonder how much of that is cultural then too. That whole vibe.
The
It's interesting.
idea that it is like this. I'm not so sure.
Yeah, me either. It's a good point.
Is it? Did I get it right? Somehow I think that you had something to do with psychology. Did you study psychology or something like that?
Yeah, I have 2 bachelor's degrees, or I have a double major in psychology and philosophy.
Okay. And how do you relate to this now?
Well, I think that, most people go to a psychologist to try to end their suffering. I think most people go to a philosopher to find the truth and to find the good. And I'm also a musician that was seeking the beautiful. And then once you finally discover your own beauty, the fact that you are the truth and don't need to know anything, and that suffering is ended, all those things are suddenly relegated to the realm of seeking that is no longer taking place. So it's almost like it almost feels like a past life in a way. My life before awakening seems so different that it's almost like someone else on a certain level, because I was viewing the world upside down, and now it's all right side up, and now I don't need to know, and now I'm not seeking all those things I was seeking. It's funny how that works. The way I put that is samsara is seeing the world upside down, and nirvana is when it spontaneously, you realize, oh, it's always been right side up. That's why the seeker has such a problem with when a sage says something like, oh, can't you see the world is perfect? They just, how can you say that? Everything's on fire, everything's fucked, how could you say the world is perfect? Oh, once you see it, the whole thing is functioning as a whole. If I were to, so is my body. If I were to cut my body in half, it wouldn't function very well.
Oh.
If I tried to walk around on my hands upside down, I also wouldn't be very efficient at,
Well,
you
they
know,
will do it quite well.
yeah, but you'd be the world's expert on walking on your hands, bro. But yeah. They do that in India, right? There's a lot of people, they walk around like this for 50 years with their hand up, or they'll literally roll from village to village out of this bhakti devotion to God to try to, it's kind of like flagellation or something. They're trying to suppress the ego to transcend it, but I'm not so sure it works that way. But they do some interesting, wild things that are incredibly contrived and incredibly,
Right? What does it mean?
obviously, the ego. What's that?
What does it mean in English? Contrived. Is it sort of
Like a derivative,
forced?
or like an unnaturally,
Yeah.
forced, or
Mhm.
non-spontaneous, non-natural, um yeah, putting us, trying to pound a square peg into a round hole type of thing, and wondering why it's not working. It's not supposed to do that. That's why everything's got billions of years worth of prototyping. Oh, but the ego mind, it's been alive for a few decades, knows best somehow.
Yeah. I don't know what ego is either. You know, everybody says something else about what is actually in Western language. It is just I in Latin.
Yeah, that's about it, right? Sense of I,
Yes.
sure. Yeah, the separate sense of self. When it says I, as in this chunk of separation, as if I'm a separate thing, as if there's something in here
Out of universe.
separate from the here.
Out of universe, you know.
Yeah.
Nice energy.
You too. All of it, everything. It can recognize itself on a certain level. Just like the animals at play, it might be a wild animal, but if it's not in that survival mode, and that's what the ego mind is in the human being, it's a survival mode. It's a fear-based delusion, and it's a survival mode.
But it's not bad, you know. Survival
Yeah.
mode itself is not bad, but somehow it is a make-believe. I call it a make-believe because it is this sort of separate little thing which make believe the body that when it dies, everything dies, and it is just not. It is not like this. Because
Yeah.
I'm not always. I had some glimpses of this. It happened especially when I was driving once. It was really strong, and how do you call? It was on ice, and my car. You know,
Oh yeah.
oh my car, and then it switched off the me, and
Yeah.
thing was doing by itself. So I know what you are talking about, even if mostly I am in the ego mode, and it is not constant. So of course there's the wish to come back to this, but I know what we are talking about. It is
Yeah.
stupid to say that because it's not really a knowledge, but it is like there was and it was
It's a realization. You realized, you know.
yeah.
And it
So
had you heard of people talking about that before that glimpse? Have you heard people saying, "Oh, the body behaves
not so.
spontaneously automatically"?
I'm not from a spiritual, and you know, I am an atheist. I studied art, so we have also theory, different philosophy and things like this at the art school, and I was sort of Marxist materialism, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There is, but there are never no religious. Both my parents were atheists, and not at all. But there are these moments and also orgasms and things like this, which are you are just
Yeah.
so
And they call that, right? Le petit mort, the little death. It's the same thing.
there is this. I never tried LSD, but I tried ayahuasca, so there was
Uh-huh.
and of course, you know, as I'm in mountain sports, there are these moments where we're just skiing and climbing and
Yeah. And there's that energetic component to mountains, the subtle, spooky, mysterious electromagnetism, you know, the life force energy. It kind of pools up to the top of the mountain. That's what a pyramid is. It's just an artificial mountain, basically. And when the wind blows and the sun shines and it pushes that energy up to the tip of the mountain. So that's why some people will go to the top of the mountain and have an energetic experience because they'll connect it to that force.
I was always interpreting it more biological level because, you know, you are really suffering. It's hard to go to the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
Real mountain, I mean. And you are fighting and struggling and it is hard. And then you are on the top and there is euphoria. There is you endorphin up and, you know, all the
end of the struggle. Yeah.
And
it's all easy from there because if you go down, it's much easier. Yeah.
Well, no, it is not.
Oh, maybe not. Never mind.
Climb down. It is not easy. And you know, if you go down very steep, it is you have to keep you have to have much more force in the legs in order to also. So I mostly get, my muscles hurt much more before of the descent. But
Oh, wow.
descent like 3,000 feet. It is really hot, and you have to hold each steps so that you don't really make your knees, you don't break your knees and so on. So it's really a big muscle.
Yeah, wow.
No, it is really, it seems so big. It's cardio is okay. Cardio is really difficult going up the hill, up the mountain. But going down is really strenuous
More
for
of a muscle thing at that
muscles,
point.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
The thighs, the front part of the thighs hurts.
So maybe that's why they invented skiing,
Yeah, well, no, because
to get
yeah,
back down.
of course it is easier, but if you ski a very long slope, you know, like Mont Blanc, I went to the Mont Blanc with ski, and we did quite a lot of descending. It's also, and you know, the snow is not like on a trail. It is not flat. It is really, you have to have some power to go in the deep snow and so on, which is not
Oh, yeah.
powder. So it's also, yeah, you need a lot of sports is sports, you know, you need,
Yeah. Cross country.
and
Yeah.
then you are happy.
Yeah, the endorphins too, I would imagine, go a long way.
And of course, being in the wide, some of the mountains, because Mont Blanc, some of the mountains are really overpopulated, like the Mont Blanc. Although we did a special route, you know, we did it from. Usually, people go with the cable quite high up, but
Yeah.
from the car by feet to the Mont Blanc with ski. So I did, it was like 3,500 meters in 2 days up, but it was more because it is not like this. And then we were nearly the whole route we were alone. And this was magical because nobody does it like this, you know, because everybody's going like at 300 meters up with the and then they walk the rest. And we met people like 500 meters from the top. They landed with the helicopter from Italy and went the last ridge and they did the Mont Blanc, you know. So that's okay, it's okay. They just didn't do the Mont Blanc, just the last ridge.
That's funny.
And then it was what just the first big skiing tour after an accident I had. So after 3 years of nothing, I did in the first season the Mont Blanc, and this was the most magical tour. We went, as I said, from the car to the refuge, which was not, it is not guarded, so we had to cook ourselves. And then the rest the next day and the descent. And you know, you have to get up at 2 and start at 3 from the refuge to the top, so that you are not too late to descend, because in the afternoon it can be dangerous, you know, because now it's melting, maybe avalanches would come and so on. You have to be in the time and to get, because of course we descended then to a cable and went down with a cable, but you have to, you know, you have to get early enough to catch the cable. So we went there and at 3, and it was the full moon. And then moon down, sun up, and the mountain guide with whom I was told me, although he's from there, so he did the Mont Blanc many times, he said it was the softest, one of the softest Mont Blanc that he ever met, because there was no wind. We could just 1 hour on the top, no problem. Mostly there's too much wind, weather's, and we had just, so it was like perfect restart of ski touring after the accident, and yeah.
Wow. You make
Yeah,
me feel you make me feel like well, you don't make me feel. I feel when I talk to people like you, I feel like such a fat, lazy American, because the mind comes up with all these excuses why I can't just go outside and walk around the block. And you're like, so yeah, we woke up at 3 a.m. We went up the Alps. We went. It's like I broke my leg, and you know.
Yeah, I broke my leg because I started.
The age difference. It's like I've got all these excuses. I'm like, oh, all these excuses are bullshit. That's right.
You
What's
can
stopping
stop.
me?
It's never. You are young. Sorry, how young are you? May I ask? Is it okay?
I'm 31.
Well, you can start. You know, I started skiing tours at about 30. But okay, I did ski before. I was quite a good skier before already. But all the mountaineering thing started with skiing for me. So you can start something now. Just start, because it is really it is really nice to do something. You know, moving your body is just super.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. I think it's the main key to the mind, is simply to, you know, embodiment, basically. Like people always think in terms of like, how do I use the mind to influence the body? But I think the more direct path is to influence the body, to influence the mind, because it works.
Yeah, it works. And you know, even Einstein said that when he had his ideas, it was like moving his body, like movement.
Wow.
Do you know the book of Damasio, Descartes' Error? He is
Yeah, sure.
I'm not going to look for it, but I can send you the reference, because
Okay.
it's interesting. It was, you know, it's, you know, all the dualism, body mind is this through his, it is about brain mostly, but it is really a good thing. And he said he was quoting Einstein saying that it was very much movement related.
Makes sense. Yeah, especially because, you know, what Einstein was doing was meditating on light. From age 16 for the rest of his life, that's all he was doing, was meditating on light, contemplating light. And if you think about it, light is the ultimate form of movement. So you have this stillness, this empty void, the nothing, the ether, the empty space where it's not moving at all. And then the light is moving faster than anything else. So you have Einstein meditating on light, devoting his life to light. And then you have Tesla. Tesla is focusing on lightning, and that's also kind of like the fastest thing you could think of. And both of them have this strange vibe, as if they're speaking from a perspective out of time.
Yeah, you cannot. Inventing relativity, you have to sort of be a little bit out of time.
Yeah. And from the perspective of the photon, time is frozen. Yeah. So if that's the case, for the photon to move, I might suggest that the photon is moving somehow backwards through time in a very mysterious way. I've never heard anyone say that, but when I look at what the physicists say, they say from the perspective of the photon, time isn't moving because the photon's moving so fast. And yet the photon reached my retina. So how did it do that? So that always made me wonder too, if light somehow, and this is just a personal belief, so it could just be the dualistic mind conjuring up bullshit, but it's interesting.
Have you heard about time traveling electrons? Because they did actually make electrons time travel.
Oh, okay. Makes sense. I believe in time travel, so it makes sense.
In CERN, I think. I'm not sure in which, maybe in CERN.
Makes sense.
It is the first step to time travels. It's already done.
Yeah, the Einstein-Rosen bridge.
Electron from an electron to a body full of electrons and so on. It is a long way, but you never know. You know, if you can think about it, it could be.
One way to speculate about this is, in order to create a wormhole like an Einstein-Rosen bridge to then create the effect of time travel, a really intense amount of energy would be needed. And it's interesting to me because I view CERN as a battery. I don't view it as a particle accelerator to discover the nature of reality. I think that they're putting so much money into it that it almost doesn't make sense unless there's some really super powerful thing they're trying to develop, like time travel or something similar, some equally mind-blowing level of technology, because the amount of energy they're able to create when they do that is really, it could power something very interesting.
Maybe, who knows?
And anytime the world governments work together, it makes me wonder, because it's not in their nature to be too cooperative. But when you see them, how they share Antarctica, for example, and again, these are all the dualistic part of my mind is saying all these strange, interesting ideas. So I'm not under the delusion that I know any of this, but it's interesting to bring up. But you look at how all the countries have warred over millennia for every little square inch of land. And then they all hold hands and sing Kumbaya around Antarctica. Why is that? I don't think it's just because it's cold. I don't buy that. I think there's something mysterious there that they're,
they are forced a little bit because they are not able, one country is not able to put enough resources to do it, so they have to.
Gotcha. So the same thing. So it's a money issue then. Same thing with CERN in Antarctica. That could just very well be that it's such a vast amount of resources that it has to be an international effort. So what's your opinion on a one world government?
Oh, in principle, I prefer one world anarchy. The point is that we are maybe at the fringe of new totalitarianism, which could be transnational. And all the COVID crap and so on. It is, I don't know, because it is really complex and everybody's also sensitive to the critical ideas. And I don't think that it is just conspiracy theories and so on and so forth, because there's big business which is interested in enslaving us and selling us things and so on. So, if it would be one world totalitarian system, I'm not really very hot because I know the totalitarian. I'm from Poland. I really lived under totalitarian.
Yeah, that's right.
But it was soft in Poland in the 70s. I know the 70s. I was born in 61, so the first 9 years you are a little kid, so you don't really get it. And then the 70s weren't really bad in Poland. It was soft and it was not just much less than in Soviet Union or in Eastern Germany. This was hardcore totalitarian. They were better than sort of. I remember the border between the two Germanies. It looked like a concentration camp, and the Eastern Germans looked like Nazis because they had the same trousers and so on.
Oh yeah.
With the horse riding boots and really they looked like Nazis.
Wow.
I saw this image of thing, and of course it is still totally possible. Totalitarianism is really nice to control masses and so on. So if it is this sort of one world government, I am not for it. But is it possible to do a worldwide democracy? If so, anyway, nations and borders are total fictions. This is very easy to see. You see the sky, and then there's a border, totally imaginary line. It doesn't exist at all.
Yeah. It's funny how the human mind does that. It just projects onto everything this sense of separation onto everything, and it not only anthropomorphizes everything, but it's not just humanizing everything. It's projecting that sense of separate self onto everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it looks up at the moon and the pattern recognition kicks in, and it sees a face. You know, we see faces and everything, and it goes, "Oh, somebody must be in there." Just like here, somebody's in here, and there must be somebody or something in that moon, and you know, maybe it's hollow like me.
Well, it's funny because we don't in Eastern Europe we didn't see any faces on.
Oh,
It's really, and I don't see it really.
wow.
Talking about it online in Facebook, I think, was saying, "Yeah, don't you see the face?" And the other person from another culture, or India or somewhere, I don't know where, say, "But
Yeah.
see face there."
Oh, wow. Or I noticed the constellations are different culture to
Because
culture
of
too.
that.
They connect the stars differently too. That's interesting. Huh.
We're always talking about craters on the moon, you know, the forms that you see. It's more like for me, it looks more like a map, you know, like a
Oh,
geographic forms.
wow. Interesting. Huh. And we also project suffering where there isn't. For example, if you see a cat attacking a mouse,
Mm-hmm.
let's say you go outside and you see a cat tearing into a rabbit or something, and then the cat runs off and the rabbit's, you know, dying or something. It's the human being that is suffering in that scene. The rabbit technically isn't suffering because it's not having mental conceptual activity. It's in pain.
Pain. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say exactly. I think that it is not being victim of some, it is just pain.
So if the human being thought to itself, okay, I'm gonna go pick up a big rock and end the suffering, really they're ending their own suffering, not the rabbit.
Yeah, but well, I don't think they like pain.
I
Animals.
don't either. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I, you know,
Yeah.
should poor thing.
Yeah. But it's interesting because the human being will see animals in pain. And I'm not saying we should go around inflicting pain unnecessarily, but when a human being sees a scene like that, really the human being feels uncomfortable with their own suffering,
Himself. Yeah, or to herself. Yeah.
and they want to end their own suffering by witnessing that scene. And so then they might have the urge to do something.
Yeah, this is it. The urge to do something is a good way of saying it. But it's funny because on the other hand, you know, it's just happening too. That's what's
Yeah.
happening. Yeah.
Yeah, there's never anything
There is
wrong
not
with
really a
anything.
doer. It's only the, you know.
Yeah. It's just the neocortical activity that gives us this illusion of free will and this illusion of self. And I find that funny that it's so integral to the Christian religion right from the beginning. There's free will, there's a separate self.
Yeah,
Adam was naming all the animals.
right,
They
right.
immediately, upon knowing good and evil, so knowledge, good, evil, all dualistic, upon that, suddenly they feel ashamed and guilty, and the suffering begins. And then to return to that paradise, to return to that natural state.
You have to be nice. And to
Yeah, teach the tiger that.
obey the church, obey the church.
Yeah, go train a wolf how to be nice. Let me know how it goes. Yeah, that's funny, you know, because nice in a way is a type of it's a type of deception. It's a type of being fake. And
Yeah.
I actually appreciate people that are kind of rude to me and kind of directly, radically honest, sometimes more than someone that's just superficially nice. You know, kind of depends. It depends. There's a fine line, but on a certain level, yeah, I appreciate radical honesty. And I think that that's kind of what a sage is doing when they talk to a seeker that's actually desperate to awaken because they're suffering so much is they're looking for honesty. They don't want the They don't want the frilly deception games that a guru might play. They want someone to sit them down and say, listen, here's how it is. And it's not going to feel comfortable necessarily. You might not like it. You might reject it, but here's how it is.
Yeah, I was thinking about it a lot in the last time. I don't know. There is something like, for me, a good difference in English is between nice and kind. I think, you know, I don't like brutality. So some
Yeah,
are saying I'm brutally honest and this is super.
right.
I think that just simply honest is okay.
Yeah,
Be brutally.
yeah.
And because I just decided to stop training to become a teacher of the art of being. It is a pupil, Alan Lowen, who is a psychologist, and he went to Osho, and somehow we end up to do it, and I decided to do the teacher's training. But there is sort of, and I decided to stop it now because I'm into non-duality, radical non-duality, and it is also maybe as you did the psychology thing, you know Carl Rogers probably.
Mm.
So it was one of Alan's important influences, and it is based on personal power. But finally, I found out that it is still accentuate. I'm not no longer comfortable with both things. I decided not to do only non-duality,
Yeah.
of course, but it was no longer. I don't really believe in the personal thing.
Yeah, there is no personal power whatsoever.
Yeah, the
Ever.
power is, and it's funny because do you remember in his texts he talks about potatoes and his big, what I found really nice in Carl Rogers was his non-moralistic and positive consideration of humans, that are not evil or something, but there's this power like potatoes, even in that life is striving to grow. And he said humans also do that. And he was like, he said, yeah, when I was a kid, we had potatoes in the basement, and even they had no chance to grow in the basement, but there was a window, and they were growing. You know how they do the potatoes.
Yeah. Life finds a way.
Yeah. Life. But then, yes, this is this power, natural life power. It is, of course,
Yeah.
part of it. And the wild power also, but it is not personal. The potato.
Exactly. Upon awakening, my brain coined a new term. Instead of calling it natural energy or life force, it said natural energy. So it's spelled natural energy, but I pronounce it natural energy. But yeah, like the potato.
And so potatoes are powerful, and everything is powerful, but it's not personal. So I was, yeah, I found out it was really getting difficult with this group of people. And there was also this idea that you have to be brutally honest and even nasty. And I think I don't know, it's not needed.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, some people, they just try to like hammer away at the ego just brutally. Yeah, and that's coming from the same level of ignorance as being way too nice and scared of everything and don't want to step onto. It's the same level of yeah, there's a sweet spot in between those. You don't, and both of those I think come out of trauma on a certain level. And cultural conditioning itself is inherently traumatizing. So none of us are untraumatized unless we were, you know, raised by wolves or something.
Oh yeah, sure.
And then we would look at that and go, oh my God, they must be so traumatized by that. No, you are. They're fine. They're in a natural state. If they never bumped into another human, there would never be a problem. They're not suffering. Yeah, I've heard a lot of interesting things about Osho.
Yeah, me too. I was very much in Osho because of this trip. You know, we started in 2005, so it's been quite a lot of time. But yeah, I just realized that letting go happened because I was really struggling and felt bad, and you know,
Because you weren't resonating with it. It wasn't helping. It wasn't it
yeah,
at all.
it felt not really good, but I couldn't. It was impossible to let go, and not. It was just yesterday. I did a Zoom with Tony Parsons,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, I'm since 2007.
Oh,
It was,
cool. That's
yeah,
awesome.
and you know, once in these workshops, I really was suicidal and felt bad, and I went
Yeah.
to me, and you know, it is because he's being called Terminator and things like that, killing and so on. Actually, he maybe saved my life, helped to save my life, because it was like relaxing into this. And yesterday I participated to this, and then it was like clear, no, stop the other thing. Even if I already I paid plenty of money and so on, it's fine.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. When we invest in something and then we realize this isn't what I want, there's still the drive of like, but I've already invested time, energy, money.
Yes, it is exactly this.
So I have to keep going. It's almost like that's how they rope you in on a certain level. But I already paid up
Yes.
front or whatever it is.
Uh,
They keep you in that somehow.
Escalation of investment or something. There's something like that in sports too, you know. When you are planning a tour and you did like 2/3 of it, and you know everybody has paid and everybody has done but maybe now the avalanches is coming. So let's stop. And we don't stop because we so much, and then we die because of that.
Yeah. Or I noticed that you know, some of my ancestors, my family members went through the Great Depression. So part of my family instilled in me, you know, never waste food. So that's like an automatic conditioning in me where, you know, I have to finish whatever it is. And then I get more calories, and you know, it's not necessarily, it's not 100% healthy or unhealthy, but there's a good and a bad side to that. And so when I see someone else waste food,
I hate.
That almost shouldn't be there on a certain level, but it's still there.
Well, you know, I'm from Poland, and my parents were children during the Second World War in Poland, where the fronts moving like this, Nazis from the one side, Soviets from the other side. So it was. I hate wasting food. Hate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. I don't.
Yeah, it shouldn't matter, because it's like you already bought the food. You're either going to put it in your body or throw it in the garbage. And if it's an unhealthy food, then it really shouldn't bother you if it's wasted. And yet it still might. You still will kind of cringe if you see someone throw half their plate in the garbage. You go, oh. You know, there's people, and you know,
Donuts.
you know, because yeah. That's funny too. You know, imagine if somebody was looking for the donut hole, but they're talking about the little circle donut hole. You know, what if they were looking for that instead of the circle? They would never find it because they think it's a something they're looking for. Yeah.
But I send you a funny video about donut holes and dachshunds.
Oh yeah.
There are edible donut holes.
Yeah, exactly.
They give the dachshund lady the donuts and the little round things.
Uh-huh. And you know, it's funny, like things like being overweight only exist in the human world. It's found nowhere in nature. The only time you ever see an overweight animal is if it's in human captivity.
Yeah. Overeating is perfectly.
So you might see it in a zoo, you might see it in somebody's house with a cat or a dog, but you'll never, ever, 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 ever see it out in the wild.
They just need.
Unless there was a human there feeding them in a weird, unnatural way.
Yeah, it is really true, right?
So it's interesting that there's this vast intelligence underlying all of nature that all the animals seem more in touch with than the human being.
Yeah.
And the human being thinks they're so clever somehow to be
Do you
beyond that.
Do you remember the big tsunami in the eastern sphere where plenty of people died and so on and so forth?
And all the animals took off beforehand. Yeah.
There's an island where people are still living close to animals, and they don't sense it, but they followed the animals and they all survived.
Yeah. Exactly.
Animals
And that's what the shaman does. You know, a shaman observes the natural cycles of nature and learns the wisdom and the intelligence underneath that, and sees how the ecosystem balances itself and the timing of it all. And the shaman is also not participating in culture. They live alone out in a shack somewhere. You know, they might even invent the culture for the village they're outside of, and then still not participate in it, and try to stay in touch with the natural cycles of things. Even the oldest, seemingly wisest traditions, like things like Taoism, you know, the original roots of them, and the shamanism that leads to things like that. You know, really, they're just focusing on observing natural cycles.
Do you know about other people on an island who kill everybody who tries to get there?
Yeah, there was a missionary that tried to go there, and they just immediately killed him. They're like, there, that's better.
Because it belongs to India. And first, the Indian government tried to civilize them, but they let them alone.
Yeah.
Here, boundaries.
Yeah.
Somehow they know that it's no good for them.
Yeah, they can sense the strange, unnatural vibe coming. I think people, just like an animal can detect, you know, if someone that's kind of shady enters your house, your dog might be looking at you like, why'd you let this person in? This is not somebody you want in the house. This is not somebody we can trust. You know, animals can sense that energetic body language side of things. And it's almost like human beings need to be retrained how to detect that. You know, it's interesting. But people can trust their body's reactions to those vibes instead of the mind story.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So these contractions and things that happen in the body, these tensions or relaxations in the body, and you can trust that more than you can trust any thought. Some people would even say that's a method for awakening, is finding the tension in the body
blah, blah, blah,
and relaxing it.
I just have to pick up a cushion for my leg is still a little bit,
okay.
It's too bit high. So yes, it's water.
So you had a glimpse while driving when the me lost control.
Yeah, it was really like no me. It was super efficient. The body was doing everything right. It was like perfect. And no fear. Interesting.
Yeah, no fear. Yeah.
Yeah. Although it was just, but even in the aftermath, there was no fear because it was just solved by itself. So in this situation, when it is really the survival of the body, there is no, you know.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? So the ego coming online is a survival mechanism. And in a way, sometimes the glimpse of awakening or the awakening itself could be for a survival reason potentially.
Yeah.
Or the surrender of, okay, I'm about to die now, and then you don't. And then maybe that wakes you up. Or there's many different ways this can happen. And some people have glimpses. Some people, it's permanent. And there's like a freshness to entering the non-dual state directly. There's a freshness that can stay or fade, but usually fades back into the background so that you can, you know, function again instead of just sitting there. And yet functioning just occurs. Like you said, it was moving and everything for you. Yeah.
And it was really, it was perfect. But you know, it happened also in far less dramatic situation. No survival implied, just coming, not, I was going to a retreat with Tony Parsons to Wales by train. I went, you know, through the channel, and then somehow the train was late or something. I don't remember exactly, but I had at the railway station in London, I had to change, and I got just extremely little time. So I just let go. I just run, you know, like not, and it was like this, the same sense of, you know.
Yeah.
Of course, I got, it's not so important because I could also take the next, I don't know.
Right.
So, but just, it was perfect.
And yeah, on a higher level, the train is always leaving the station, you know. I just realized what time it is. I do have to get going. I have another call right now, but we'll have to,
Okay, so
I hope we can talk again soon.
we can, I just get in touch for you because I would like to pay you a little bit something for that.
Oh, okay. I appreciate that.
How much?
Yeah, oh, it doesn't matter. I'll send you my email. It's linked to my PayPal, and we can whatever you want.
Yeah, something. Okay.
But yeah,
Well,
I appreciate talking to you, and I feel like we still have a lot of I still feel like there's more content to kind of uncover there. So maybe we should talk again soon if you're up for it.
But it's really nice. I would like to meet you really, but it is a little bit difficult to jump the phone now.
Yeah.
For everybody.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, thanks so much. I appreciate it. It was always a pleasure talking to you.
Nice to.
I hope we talk again soon.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.